Were you told you were shy? Do you identify as shy? Do you hate that word now? Do you just wish you could get over it and get on with your life? Welcome to Shining Beyond Shy, empowering you to create a greater life than you ever thought was possible. With your Shining Beyond Shy host, Fiona Cuts. Hi everybody, Fiona Cuts here, and welcome to this episode of Shining Beyond Shy. So I'm calling this episode, what a fun title, Stuffing It Down. It's funny, isn't it? It makes me laugh now. And let me just say that for a lot of my life, that would not have made me laugh. So, I mean, I guess we all have different strands to our journeys. And of course, one of mine is shyness, as you know, if you've been listening to this podcast, or maybe it's clear from the title anyway. And others of them, well, I had chronic fatigue syndrome, which I get was related to the shyness and not being able to express me. But one of the big threads of my own journey has actually been food and, well, overeating. And let's just do this. So I think a lot of you know the Access Consciousness Clearing Statement. And if you don't, I'll direct you to somewhere where you can find out more about it. So all the energy that comes up when I just say that, overeating, will you destroy and uncreate it? Right and wrong, good and bad, POD and POC, all knowing shorts, boys and beyonds. So that clearing statement basically is an amazing upgrade in self-development, and it allows the energy, the stuck energy around, in this case, the word overeating, it allows it to release and means that we don't have that emotional charge on it anymore. And believe me, for me, it was very emotionally charged. So I was having a conversation with a friend of mine, because I don't think I've talked about food and overeating on the podcast before. And she helped me to see how relevant it is for a lot of people who are shy. So for me, there were several things going on, and I'll just talk about them so that you can have clarity if that's what's going on for you or if it's something different for you. So shyness, of course, is primarily about the voice and expressing ourselves, and often as shy people we have that fear of expressing ourselves, the fear of saying what we'd like to say, the fear that we're going to be shot down, hit down, or whatever that is for you. And so one of the ways that we can kind of appease or abate or the words that want to come out is literally by stuffing them down with food. So it takes away, this is how it's been for me, it takes away, or appears to take away, some of that discomfort that we feel when we want to express ourselves. Maybe some of the anger, the frustration that's lying there because we can't express it. And then we eat and it's appeased. And just to say that this episode is about food, but a lot of addictions can do that. Actually an obvious one is like we drink to appease ourselves when we aren't able to say what we would like to say. But I'm going to talk about food in this episode. I mean, I did have a thing with alcohol for a while as well, not a big thing. But for me, the primary thing has been food. So that's the first thing to say. But the second thing to say is that if your shyness takes the form that, in a way, it did for me when I had chronic fatigue syndrome, and you weren't able to go out of the house much, it's like our lives become so small with shyness, or in my case with fatigue, that one of the very fun things, particularly if we're a foodie like I am, one of the very fun things that we do have left that we can do is eat. And I remember really clearly a dear friend of mine, I said to her, oh God, I ate this sugary muffiny thing again, and I felt awful. And in those days when I had chronic fatigue syndrome, I could feel awful for a while after eating the quote unquote wrong thing. And so she used to say to me, well, just stop eating it. And I was like, it should be that simple. I should just be able to stop eating it because I don't feel good when I eat it. But there was such there wasn't very much in my life that was enjoyable, and food was one of the things that was super enjoyable for me. And it was very, very hard for me to look at changing my diet. And to be honest, for me, the changes that have come in my life have been more through using the tools of access consciousness, getting the change, and just finding that I'm not eating in the same compulsive way. It's been kind of like, oh, and I have done some stuff to address it full on, which has worked to a certain extent. But the thing that has worked the greatest for me is using the tools to overcome the root problem of the shyness, which of course is what we do in this podcast and what I do in the other work that I do. And just finding, oh, it's not such a big thing for me. And don't get me wrong, I love to eat. I really love food. And I'm just going to ask you, if this is resonating with you, if you find yourself overeating, stuffing things down with food, I'm just going to ask you, do you actually really like food? So all of the energy that brings up, will you destroy and uncreate it? Right and wrong, good and bad, pod and pock, all nine shorts, boys and beyonds. And it's very easy in these situations for food to become the enemy, and for us to think that the solution is, if not to starve ourselves, and of course some people go to that. I was never able to completely starve myself, but we think that the solution is to cut out all the fun things, to deprive ourselves. And I can tell you that that never, ever, ever worked for me. If I tried to be too full on with my diet, if I tried to deprive myself too much, it would always backfire, and I'd end up eating worse than ever before. So again, if that resonates with you, everything that brings up in your world, will you destroy and uncreate it? Right and wrong, good and bad, pod and pock, all nine shorts, boys and beyonds. And yes, just acknowledging for me, oh, I really like food. That's not a wrongness. It's not a wrongness. And nowadays, I will, the meals that I have, I make sure are really delicious and satisfying. And sometimes I'm like, oh, I do eat quite a lot. But it's like I have to have that satisfaction from my food. And that then means that I don't go into the overeating. Oh, and again, all the energy that brings up. My body moves when I say something that has a lot of energy on it. Really destroy and uncreate it. Right and wrong, good and bad, pod and pock, all nine shorts, boys and beyonds. And I know for me, when I was really in the grips of all this food stuff, that it would have almost been impossible for me just to say straightforwardly, oh, I'm Fiona and I actually really like food. It wouldn't have been possible. I thought there was something wrong in food. And I remember at a certain point almost being like frustrated that I couldn't just stop eating. I was like, well, you know, if it was cigarettes, if it was alcohol, I could just stop and it'd all be easier. And if you do have a cigarette or an alcohol thing going on, you may completely disagree with that. But that I really used to believe that, oh, I wish I could just give up. I wish that I didn't have to have this battle with food. And so I would love to give you some simple tools that you can use. And we're already starting to change some of the stuff around this by the questions that I've already asked you. And just by being present, oh, is it hard for me to say I love food? Do I love food? You know, not everybody does. You know, some people on the planet see food just as something that allows them to carry on living. Not everybody has these not everybody loves food. Not everybody has these this kind of crazy relationship with food in the way that I used to have that. And so just asking yourself, is it true that I really love food? What if there's nothing wrong with that? So again, all the energy that comes up on that, and how crazy that it's hard for us just to say, I love food. Excuse me. So all the energy that comes up with that, will you destroy and uncreate it? Right and wrong, good and bad, pod and pock, all 9 shorts, boys and beyonds. So I'd love to give you a few really practical tools that you can use right now to change some of this stuff. So if you feel like you need to eat everything in sight now, you can just ask yourself, what am I not voicing? What am I not expressing? That if I would voice it and express it, would change everything. And there's some energy on that. So all the energy, will you destroy and uncreate it? Right and wrong, good and bad, pod and pock, all 9 shorts, boys and beyonds. Another thing that you can ask is, what would it take to be enjoying my life so much that I forget to eat? So all the energy on that, will you destroy and uncreate it? Right and wrong, good and bad, pod and pock, all 9 shorts, boys and beyonds. What if we could be living lives that are so fun that, yes, when it's meal times, we enjoy the eating, and yet it's not the only fun thing that goes on for us. We're not like I was when I was confined to my house, and it's like there wasn't much that was fun. I used to meditate. I used to love meditating. Meditating and food were my things. So, yeah, so just asking those. And then I also suggest just being really present when you're eating. And so here's the thing, that when we're kind of in the grip of this desire to eat, to stuff something down, it can all seem to happen so quickly that we feel out of control. We feel that we didn't have a choice with it. So we always have a choice with it. It's just sometimes the time between, say, opening the fridge and stuffing it in is very, very quick. And yet there's a choice to open the fridge door. There's a choice to put your hand in the fridge and to get the thing and to put it into your mouth. There are definitely choice points there, and it can all get so speeded up that we, that it feels like we don't have a choice. So just being willing to, when you find yourself running to the fridge or running to the chocolate shop or whatever it is, just being present, feeling your feet on the ground, feeling if you're sitting down, or actually that's what you could do. You could stop running to the shop. You could just sit down, put your feet on the ground, feel your feet on the ground, feel your bottom on the chair, feel your back on the back of the chair. Just be aware of those 3 places and take a breath. And what that does is that just brings you to your body. And you can see me talking about it, it changes something, you know, I'm not just about to run to the fridge, but it's changed something and made me present just by inviting in that, oh, I'm going to be aware of 3 places in my body. Then just taking a breath and just asking yourself, do I really want to eat this? And you may still end up eating it, but it takes away that out of control feeling. And I've sometimes had that in the past. And I'm talking about this as though it's in the past. So it mainly is for me. And I can still have that tendency to eat just a little bit more than my body desires. I can still have that tendency to go for the stuff that's really heavy and well, stuffs things down. I mean, it's nothing compared to how it was. And I have a freedom and an enjoyment with food that is amazing now and that I love. And so let's just clear that energy, all the energy that brings up. Let's destroy and uncreate it. Right and wrong, good and bad, pod and pock, all 9 shorts, boys and beyonds. And just notice that if you feel, I don't know, angry or like, oh, that's okay for Fiona, you know, she's talking about it now and it's in the past for her, it's okay for her. Just know that you too can change this. It's all completely changeable. And what I was about to say was that sometimes when I am more present, I still choose to eat the thing that isn't maybe what my body desires. But just knowing that you've slowed time down, if you like, you realize that it's a choice, that can be really valuable, because often with these compulsive habits, we think that there isn't a choice. So those are my tips for dealing with this stuff around food in the moment. But what I would also say is that if you are like me, if you are shy, and there's that kind of connection that I talked about at the beginning, I would really invite you to download my free resource, 5 Steps to Overcoming Shyness, wherever you are. And just reading through, there are PDFs and there are videos, just watching the videos or reading the PDFs, whichever is more fun for you, and just trying out those tips. And it may be that there are 1 or 2 that just scream out at you, and that there are the ones that are going to really contribute to you, or you might want to try them all. But just give them a go, because really looking at shyness and eradicating what causes the shyness is what brought me to freedom around food and eating. And well, I wish that for you too. So I hope that you've enjoyed this episode, and I look forward to seeing you again next week. Bye for now. Thank you so much for listening to this podcast. I'm so grateful for you. It would be great if you could subscribe, great if you could leave a review wherever you're listening. And if you'd like some quick, simple tips to overcome shyness wherever you are, please go to my website, fionacuts.com, where you can download my free product, 5 Steps to Overcoming Shyness wherever you are. Thank you again, and see you next time.